When you have a history of greatness, the real challenge starts after the finish line. When victory alone isn't enough, you chase something greater, no matter how difficult the path. On the dirt, in the sand, and beyond. The new 2024 Ridgeline Passport and Pilot, part of our most rugged trail sport lineup yet. From Honda.
Hello, and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you're joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. And anything we need to get when it relates to Lafourche Parish, we always turn our attention to Lafourche Parish President Archie Chaisson. Hello, Archie. How you doing today?
Hey, Keith. Good to be with you.
I appreciate it very much. Some really nice, cool weather outside, I got to tell you. A little change from last week.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, this is much milder compared to what we saw last week. A lot nicer to be outside than in snow gear like we were a few days ago.
Yeah, I got to tell you, it's one of those things where I'm so very glad to have the really great working of a whole unit, Lafourche Parish working together as they always do. Tell us a little bit about how well the team did taking care of things during this unprecedented snow event.
Yeah, Keith, 12 inches of snow is not what anybody had in mind for how last week was going to go. And I think when they look back at the records, the 1800s was the last time, I think, in recorded history, we had seen that much snow, on the Bayou. A lot of us remember the 1989 year when it snowed. Most of us, my age, were kids, and we remember playing in it. And of course, in 2017, when we got about maybe a half an inch of snow, and then the kids were able to build, little bitty snowmen. But, seeing 12 inches of snow on the ground, seeing pictures like you're showing now, the cathedral in Thibodaux, or the NASA image that showed all of Southeast Louisiana covered in that white stuff was really weird. But it was nice to see families connect, kids outside being pulled in sleds, whether it was by golf carts or lawnmowers, seeing all the snowmen pictures from across the parish. But cohesively as a group, our three municipalities in Thibodaux, Lockport, and Golden Meadow, our three municipal police departments, of course, our sheriff's office, state police, our fire departments and EMS, our water district personnel, all coming together was a huge asset. I can't say how proud I am of not only our guys and ladies in public works who got out in that chilly weather beginning Wednesday afternoon and started to clear bridges so that traffic could start to move on Thursday when we finally lifted that curfew when things got to melt. And one of the things we learned really fast, Ken, is that snow isn't very easily moved. When you see those images of snow plows and those trucks, really zooming past and pushing that snow, that's kind of what you need, right? Doing it on a tractor with a bucket or a skid steer or a road grader, it just kind of seems to clump on you unless you got some way to kind of direct it off the roadways. But so we learned some lessons. Hopefully not something that we're ever going to have to worry about again, or at least in that much. But we did. We worked really well together. Sheriff's office and state police and our municipal police departments did really well, not only enforcing the curfew, but dealing with the few accidents that we had as people got on the road when they had to, or just the people who didn't realize or didn't want to realize we had a curfew and tried to go out sightseeing. But our EMS personnel, our fire departments who responded to stuff in that, and especially our water district folks. We had some issues Wednesday and Thursday with low water pressure and no water in some areas. Wayne Gotro, the water superintendent, the general manager for our water district, came to our council meeting last night. And a lot of that stuff was just usage beyond what we could produce at our water plants. When you get 32,000 water meters and 32,000 customers, and a majority of those are trickling their faucets. If each one of those, even half of those water customers use even a half a gallon of water as they're trickling their faucets overnight, it's more than what our plants can keep up with, right? But we're talking about, making 3 and 4 million gallons of water per day in our two plants. That's a lot of water. That's a lot of usage as people are starting to drip faucets. We saw a lot of people who didn't realize they had pipes burst and they were just leaching water from under their homes, which puts a strain on the system as well. So that's why we encourage people, in those conservation orders, if you don't have to use water, don't. And then once you stop dripping your faucets, or even if you didn't, get out after the daylight comes available and check your pipes. Make sure nothing's froze over and nothing's leaking and nothing's breathing water everywhere. And that's some of the issues that we saw. But look, we had guys out in the ground, in the cold, in those sub-freezing temperatures. And as a guy who's done that in 30-degree weather when a line busts and you're trying to fix it, it's not the best environment to be in. No. So kudos to those guys as well.
Yeah, I got to tell you, some family over in Thibodaux, some patients over in Bayou Blue, both experiencing some of that low and no water pressure, and it was handled very quickly. great communication coming out about where we are, what we're doing. As soon as it was safe to get those guys out on the road, despite the fact it was still freezing, those guys were out working. Working with water and cold, they don't always mix. And as we know, sometimes those pipes, it doesn't work for them either. But your team did a great job doing that, getting out.
Yeah, and look, that's why we tell people, remember to insulate those pipes. If you look at the Water District social media page from yesterday and ours as well, sign up for those text alerts so that when we put out those conservation orders, when we put out those boil water advisories, when we put out those notices that say, hey, it's above 30, 32 degrees, you don't have to drip your faucets anymore. You can get those direct to your phone. We know a lot of people don't have social media. Although if you look at the comments and the shares and stuff we got on some of those posts, you would think everybody in the world had social media over the course of those couple of days. But we sign up for those text alerts, whether you're doing it through our page and our Everbridge system, or you're using the system that the Water District has now set up so they can push out some more of their messaging as their standalone entity. Sign up for those things. That's the easiest way to get that information. And look, I know people said it last night at our council meeting. We're used to no power during hurricanes. We're not always used to no water. And when you don't have the ability to flush your toilet, when you get up in the morning and you go to brush your teeth or shave, and you've turned your faucet and nothing comes out, I get it. It's a hindrance, right? And I guarantee you there was no special valve that I had that shut off people's water at 10 o'clock one night and turned it back on at 6 o'clock the next morning. It was just a matter of the plants having to catch up, us having to rebound those storage tanks in the plants themselves, and refilling the water towers across the parish. Again, when you have that many customers dripping faucets and that many leaky things happening across, and not all of it was water line, right? There was a picture somebody posted on Facebook of a fire suppression system going to a truck stop down the bay that froze up and was spraying water everywhere, right? Again, why we tell those people in days in advance that those hard freezes are coming, you need to insulate those pipes, because it does cause trickle down effects as we get down the line.
Yeah, well, I got to tell you, Lafourche handled it very well. We were really happy that things went well about that. And the most important thing was that families got to spend some time together. People got to get out in the snow and really enjoy that and be able to take a little time to do that. We appreciate it. Archie, we've got to take a short break, if that's all right. We'll come right back with you. All right, we appreciate it. Archie's going to stick around. You do that as well. We'll be right back right here on Bayou Time.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your health is our legacy. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bork, know your rights.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Bayou Time. Again, your host, Keith Whiteside, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you were joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. And welcome back to the show, the gentleman that makes things happen over in Lafourche Parish, Archie Chaisson. Thanks for joining us again, Archie.
Absolutely, Keith.
And of course, Parish President. And you and Jason Bergeron got a chance to do something here last week to really go and participate and really be able to spend time and talk with people over in Washington and really talk to some of those decision makers as y'all got to spend some time at the Washington Mardi Gras. Tell us a little bit about how that went last week.
Yeah, Keith, it's an annual event for us. Kind of the whole state of Louisiana travels up there for a week for a whole variety of reasons, right? Our week started off on Tuesday with meetings with the new FEMA personnel. Tony Robinson, who's a great friend, who's the regional administrator out of Denton in Region 6, who we've been working with for a lot of years, but most recently on our flood maps, was kind of put in the interim position, right, when Administrator Criswell left as President Biden exited office and before some of the Trump appointees got there. So I reached out to Tony just to see if he was going to be up there for that week, and lo and behold, he was named the interim a couple of days after I sent that first email. So we were able to sit down with him, the new deputy undersecretaries who are being put in place by the Trump administration, and then the new person who's going to be in charge of the National Flood Insurance Program, right? So great conversations about where we are with our FEMA claims post-Ida on some of the things that we're still hemmed up on, that we're waiting for funding to come through and be approved. In our case for Lafourche, it's mostly revolving around our drainage infrastructure and our pump stations. FEMA is not very well accustomed to dealing with individualized forced drainage systems. They're used to the Corps or somebody else coming in and going, hey, it's our levee system, it's our pump stations, and especially in the realm around Katrina and the HISRA system around New Orleans. So they're not used to us going, hey, this is our little pump station that we built in the 60s, but now it's halfway torn apart by a hurricane, and we need $14 million to go rebuild it. So it's been a struggle working with them on some of the consensus-based codes and standards, some of the hydraulic systems and the hydraulic standards that the Corps uses on some of their pump stations. So working with them to get them to understand that. Of course, we thumped them on the skull when it came to the National Flood Insurance Program and the rates that our residents are seeing and what that is going to look like under not only the new person in charge of the National Flood Insurance Program, but also under a Trump presidency. And we're not exactly sure that the people that were put in place before the Biden administration ended are going to make it through the transition with the Trump administration. But, we're willing to meet with us. We're willing to hear what we were talking about and the plight that we're seeing not only here in Louisiana, but what other communities are going to see, right? What we're seeing happen in the Carolinas, after Hurricane Helene and the massive flooding that we saw there, and what's going to happen to those communities as they get remapped and certain places are put in the flood zones, and they now have to buy flood insurance at these new exorbitant and actuarial rates. So it was good for us. We transitioned, through a lot of meetings with the Corps and the MAC delegation talking about Morganza and the Upper Barataria Risk Reduction System, which is the levee system that will tie in Raceland and go all the way through St. Charles Parish and the Zalmans with the new floodgate. And then we had an opportunity to meet with the delegation, right? We started out with Senator Kennedy on Wednesday afternoon and then hit everybody else on Thursday morning, including Congressman Scalise. And a few of us are going to see him again tomorrow as he comes home. And we have some different meetings with him tomorrow in New Orleans. But, talking things about, GOMESA and revenue sharing and how we get that money from offshore oil and gas revenue. There's a lot of talk in D.C. and was a lot of talk last week about handling that, revenue sharing portion in the reconciliation process as they work through some of these budget issues under the Trump administration. You can do it through reconciliation because it's a funding maneuver, not a policy maneuver. So we were pushing pretty hard on Congressman Scalise and Congressman Carter to be able to do that. Now's the time, as we noted, to Majority Leader Scalise said, hey, you and the Speaker were standing next to the President when he had his hand on the Bible, right? So if we were ever going to go to the White House and ask for something, number one, this is what we want to ask for. And two, it's time to go do it, right? Everybody talks about how great it is to have two people from Louisiana in those top two leadership positions, two Republican houses in Congress. So if we're ever going to get this across the finish line, I think this is the time to do it. Yes, there's some offsets. Yes, we have to find some money somewhere else. And I'm sure that Vivek and Elon are going to look at that as part of the government efficiency model and some of the Trump executive orders that were done yesterday in pausing federal spending. But if we're going to continue the coastal program here in Louisiana, if we're going to continue to do the great work that we've been doing through CPRA with Chairman Dove and Governor Landry, we need that money. We're facing that coastal fiscal cliff in 2029, 2030, which is right around the corner, right? We're already in 2025. The BP dollars are going to run out here pretty shortly as we hit the end of that first run for Governor Landry. So we need to find some other dollars, right? So we talked about that. Of course, we talked about a long-term reauthorization of the National Flood Insurance Program. Senator Kennedy has some thoughts on that. Is going to be proposing a bill in the Senate that'll not so much pause risk rating 2.0, but will kind of put in some metrics in place as we get through kind of that long-term 5-year reauthorization of the program that will hopefully starve some of that stuff off. So look, a lot of good conversations, not only with the delegation, but just other people from Louisiana that were up there as well. When you go up there as a force, not only as Lafourche and Terrebonne as a Bayou region, but when you go up there as a force as Louisiana, people really tend to pay attention. So it was a really good week up there. It was a lot of great work that was done, a lot of connections that were made. But look, the Bayou always home, and once you get on that plane ride to come home Saturday morning, and you felt the salt air again when you got out of the airport, it was great to be back home.
Yeah, feeling that salt air at the airport is one of those things that you probably spend a lot of your week trying to explain what happens, right, to so many things that are exposed to the environment down here. It's salt water and what salt does and what happens down here. And people from Louisiana understand that. People up in D.C. don't always.
No doubt. When you try to explain things like the great work that Chet and the Port Commissioners are doing down in Port Fourchon, you talk about the last section of elevated highway, and people are thinking, well, you're paying $600 million to build an 8-mile set of roadway. Well, yeah, but that $600 million is equated to 1 day of closure of that port, right? So it's vitally important to the nation, and I think you saw that. And I have to send Jason the pictures. Maybe next time I'm on, we can talk a little bit more about this. But there's an LNG project that's coming to Port Fourchon that Chet has been working on with his Port Commission for a very long time to have an export hub out of Port Fourchon, similar to what we see going on in Southwest Louisiana. But there's a group that's coming into play that's going to build an export facility down there and actually sign their first offtake agreement with Bangladesh.
Right.
So Chet and I were able to visit the embassy, meet the Bangladesh ambassador, and watch he and the economic minister ink that deal and sign that agreement for the first offtakes of LNG from the port project that's going to come to Fouchon very rapidly, hopefully now that we have some contracts in place. But it was great to bring Lafourche Parish, Port Fouchon to that international level. Not every day you get invited to a foreign embassy and get to meet the ambassador, much less to ink a deal that's going to bring hopefully jobs and revenue to the parish.
Well, you bring up a really good point. We're going to take a break and come back and talk about some of those projects that are going on in Lafourche that people can be really proud of. We'll be right back with Archie Chaisson. Don't go anywhere.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Bayou Time. Again, your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you're joining us. Very glad to have with us again for another segment, Archie Chaisson, of course, the Lafourche Parish president. Archie, thanks again for being with us.
No problem, Keith. I was excited to go see you today until I realized I wore a green shirt. You know, what you got to mix with the screen. So I just decided to stay at the office.
We appreciate you nonetheless, however you come to us. You know, you were talking about what just happened down in Port Fouchon, just a remarkable event. As almost as remarkable doing this as the snow event of last week. Chet and their group got a really big thing going with this Argent LNG long-term lease agreement.
Yeah, no doubt, Keith. And it's a running joke down here. If you ask anybody kind of on the bayou, they'll say the two Chaisson boys run Lafourche, right? But Chet and his port commissioners down there doing an absolutely fantastic job. And without them, Lafourche Parish wouldn't be what it is, right? The port is our hugest, is the biggest economic driver for us, followed by our healthcare network and of course, Nicholls State University. But, having that LNG facility down there is really going to be huge. And I think you heard President Trump talk about it the other day in one of his press conferences that, gas is the future, right? And as the maker of and the intaker of one of the largest segments of those pipelines that come in, having a place that can bunker it and export it out is going to be huge. So we've been working, of course, in concert with Chet and Jonathan and Argent LNG. And again, to be in D.C. last week and watch the excitement on Chet's face and Jonathan's face as they inked that first offtake agreement with Bangladesh was pretty huge. And again, to put Lafourche Parish and Louisiana on the international stage and the international map with something like that was great. And I think it's a precursor to what's coming in 2025 for the port and the parish, but what is going to come beyond that, right? We're talking about a $20 billion facility to bunker fuel and export it out of there. And it's going to go all over the world, right? It's going to go to fuel, ships and countries and stuff, all over the continent. So it's a great thing for us.
It really is. And that is one of the things down at the port. Tell us about some of the other things that we're looking forward to, some of the projects that maybe are starting or will come to fruition here in 2025.
Yeah, Keith, we're in the highest point, I think, of our projects post-Ida, and we've talked about those a lot in the recovery phase. Mm-hmm. All of our recreation projects are done, or all of our recreational facilities have seen new lights, new dugouts, new fields, new concrete, new bleachers. So those projects are waning in. The kids are really going to enjoy that this summer as ball and stuff like that really kicks off. We had a great little ribbon cutting last week at the new kind of portion of the Raceland livestock complex. We had our first Lafourche Parish livestock show that our kiddos were able to participate in under the new facility that we just built. The rodeo arena right next door is almost complete. We're looking forward to cutting the ribbon on it in late April when the Lafourche Open Club hosts their first CRA rodeo. There's some rumors about somebody getting on a horse and cutting the ribbon from a horse. So I'm sure Jason will have fun filming that with somebody's going to fall off of a horse.
Right. We'll be there to cover that, Archie. I promise.
No doubt. A lot of cowboy hats going to be in Raceland. But look, good luck to our 4-H show kids who are at Lamar Dixon for the district or the state show this week. I think the poultry and rabbit kids started today. The livestock kicks off tomorrow morning into Friday and the weekend. So good luck to those kids as they represent Lafourche Parish on the next level of their livestock journey. And again, our complexes are coming along as well. The new health unit in Galliano is well underway. And Keith, you're going to love this part. We kind of remodeled that health unit as we kind of designed it, including some mental health capacity as well. So Dr. Nicole Bourgeois, who runs our brief therapy program as part of the opioid settlement dollars, is going to have some clinician space in there to help with not only opioid addiction, but just regular mental health, which we know is a huge need in our community right now. Going to have a great day in Houma tomorrow, along with President Bergeron, as we talk about mental health as a region with the Bayou Community Foundation. So something that we're really focused on and committed to, and bringing that to South Lafourche, so people don't always have to drive so far north to be able to get the help they need. Our Galliana Government Complex is underway as well. The mechanical and electrical portion of that has started. We've, again, expanded that to include an extra Head Start classroom due to the growth in South Lafourche and the need for that kind of early pre-K learning. So Ms. Brooke Huddleston, our Head Start director, is really excited to get an extra classroom. Bigger library space. That library space is also going to have a kind of a small business incubator. So as people want to grow or start a new business in South Lafourche, they'll have access to telecoms and things like that, and a small office that they can kind of start their business out of without having the need to go find a brick and mortar setup. And of course, we'll have that space there for our clerk of court and our DA and our assessor, our registered voters, bringing early voting back to where everybody knows where it used to be, instead of having to move around based on what facility is open in South Lafourche. So I know Mr. Mike Boudreaux, our registered voter, is excited to see that project completed as well. So a lot of cool things happening across Lafourche, and we're gonna continue that same train, right? A lot of drainage projects, a couple of new pump stations in the works in 2025. As we kind of continue to figure out how to move water more efficiently, putting those bigger and better pump stations in concert with the levee district in North Lafourche as they continue to raise the levees and build out their projects as well, making sure that we're keeping people protected. So a lot of cool things coming in 2025, Keith, and a lot of things that we're going to be proud to not only cut some ribbons on, but do some groundbreakings and continue to show the public where their money's going and that we're putting it in the right places.
Well, I got to tell you, Archie, the most exciting thing about that, and I know as Nicole Bourgeois, Dr. Bourgeois is a fantastic colleague and friend, and we've worked on many things together, very excited about that aspect. Most of what you talked about is about the community and family that gets impacted in Lafourche. So many of those things are all about the kids, about family, about recreation. That's the exciting part. A lot of that money is about really making sure that it's the great place to live that we know in Lafourche, and really echoing that. So Archie, thank you for all the work that you're doing. Thanks for getting us through Snow Day, working through everything that you did with those people up in D.C. and taking good care of Lafourche. We appreciate it very, very much.
Appreciate you guys, Keith. Have a good one.
All right. Thank you. All right, guys, that'll do it for this segment and this Bayou Time, but don't go anywhere. A whole lot more right here on HTV.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.